When I got the gig to do Salvage, I was determined to give the most honest representation of the antiques trade that I possibly could. They say all good things must come to an end, and the next series of Salvage Hunters, which we shot last year and airs in the autumn, is my last.
One scandal changed Drew Pritchard's life forever. What began as a highly successful television career quickly became overshadowed by public controversies, unexpected financial struggles, and a heartbreaking tragedy. While fans saw him as the charismatic face of Salvage Hunters, few knew the turmoil he was facing away from the cameras. As his fame grew, so did the challenges that threatened to pull down everything he had worked so hard to build.
One of my favourite destinations in the new series was the railway station at Bodmin, where they pulled out this ancient car-carrying carriage that looked like it had been at the bottom of the sea. And we found tons of old signage and cast iron letters, industrial lighting. We just found hundreds and hundreds of items.
What really happened to Drew Pritchard? And what was the tragedy that changed his life forever? Join us as we unveil the heartbreaking tragedy of Drew Pritchard. The shocking announcement. Drew Pritchard has been through a lot since Salvage Hunters premiered on TV, and he'd managed to pivot his way around it. But only a few of those things gained as much attention as his recent announcement. Drew is one of the few TV stars who stayed long enough in a show to become synonymous with it. He has been the face of Salvage Hunters for years, having appeared in more than 240 episodes. That's some dedication. He had a sharp eye for antiques and a distinct approach that made him stand out right from the start. When he joined the show in 2011, he described it as one of the greatest opportunities of his career. He said working on Salvage Hunters had been a privilege, and that his main goal had always been to show viewers what the antique trade was really like. The show's format was fairly simple. In each episode, viewers followed Drew as he traveled across the United Kingdom in search of antiques. He would visit shops, fairs, warehouses, and even old country homes. When he found something he considered valuable, he would buy it, restore it, and then sell it at his base in Conwy. People wondered why such a simple idea worked so well. It's not really far-fetched. Unlike many reality TV shows, Salvage Hunters was real. In other shows, the crew would have the actors act out one scene many times in which they supposedly tried to make deals. But on Salvage Hunters, every deal was genuine, and every restoration was part of Drew's actual life every day. There were no staged reactions. Everything viewers saw showed what really happened in the trade. Alistair Dryburgh, one of Drew's co-stars, also spoke about why the show worked so well. He said that filming was completely real, with no staged scenes. The crew filmed for hours just to capture a few minutes of television, but the result was worth it because everything shown was genuine. They paid for every item with their own money and took the same risks as any professional dealer. That commitment to authenticity was something Drew always insisted on, which is why his announcement hit so hard. The announcement came in the spring of 2024 when he confirmed that the 20th series of Salvage Hunters would be his last. He explained that he had been thinking about it for some time and felt it was the right moment to move on. Apparently, the constant workload was taking a toll after so many years of filming and traveling. As always, many fans took to social media to share their opinions on why Drew would suddenly leave his show. Was it a conflict? Was he forced to leave? Drew himself made it clear, however, that his decision came from a place of peace and pride. He felt the show had accomplished what it set out to do and now had a strong team ready to carry it forward. As the final episode of Drew's last season approached, fans began to reflect on how much the show had achieved. Few series had stayed so true to their purpose for so long. Yet, Salvage Hunters managed to make it fascinating for viewers who might never have set foot in an antique shop. Drew brought old objects back to life by sharing their stories and showing how they could be given a second life. Although Drew's departure was a huge change, he left the show in capable hands. He explained that the series would continue with trusted dealers and close friends, including Alistair Dryburgh, Vicky Knott, and a new face yet to be introduced. He also asked fans to keep an open mind and to give the new team the same support they had given him when he first started. For those wondering why anyone would suggest conflict as the reason for his departure, Drew's history isn't exactly pleasant. And here's why. The Great Scandal. Antiques weren't the only things Drew loved. He had the most supportive wife. But by his own doing, everything turned sour. The Pritchards' love story began in the early 90s, built on their shared passion for antiques and restoration. At that time, Rebecca was working in the fashion industry, while Drew was just beginning to build his antiques business. Their paths crossed when Rebecca visited Drew's shop, and that meeting changed everything. What began as a simple conversation quickly turned into a connection neither of them expected. At first, all they had was a shared creative vision and a burning desire to bring old pieces back to life. In a short time, that shared interest grew into friendship, and even more quickly, romance appeared. After dating for a few months, they decided to kick things up a notch. They got married and began building a family together. As the years rolled on, their excellent teamwork became the foundation of both their family and their business. Everyone was impressed, seeing them as a couple who had built a successful business. But they were even more impressed that the couple also built a fulfilling life together. But things weren't as simple as they appeared. Behind the cameras, trouble was looming. Despite that, Drew managed to keep things under wraps. That was until 2017, when his life took an unexpected turn. Details of his private life became public. According to multiple reports, Drew was involved with a woman named Amanda Thomas. They met through Drew's son, and they started what looked like friendly conversations between parents. In no time, that harmless friendship grew into something deeper. Although the exact timeline of their relationship is unclear, everything fell apart when Amanda's husband, Janice Bryn Thomas, discovered what was happening. Janice, a respected businessman who ran a successful crane company in North Wales, didn't notice anything unusual at first. However, over time, he began to see Drew's name appear more frequently on his wife's phone. The constant calls and messages raised suspicion. Unable to hold it in any longer, Janice finally confronted Amanda about it, and she admitted to the relationship. A feeling of guilt washed over her, and she was determined to fix her marriage, so Amanda decided to end things with Drew. But who would have thought Drew would not take the breakup well? After Amanda cut ties, he reportedly sent her a text message insulting her husband and calling him a coward. Amanda, in turn, showed the message to Janice, and that sparked a chain of events that soon became public news. For a man whose reputation had largely been built on his work and television success, the controversy attracted an unusual amount of attention. Some days after the incident, Janice confronted Drew at the Liverpool Arms, a popular pub in Conwy, North Wales. That confrontation led to Janice punching Drew several times before others stepped in to separate them. The incident drew immediate attention from both the local press and national outlets. But that was expected because of Drew's status as a television personality. Very soon, the story spread beyond the pub. Police were called to the scene, and Janice was later arrested and charged in court. Janice wasn't the only one in trouble. In fact, Drew was in even bigger trouble. Even though he was the victim in the altercation, the publicity hurt his reputation. According to reports, he was placed on a temporary pub watch list, restricting him from entering local pubs while the matter was being reviewed. The restriction attracted even more attention to the controversy surrounding him. Later, He was said to have been involved in another disagreement with an unnamed man, which led to a permanent ban from several pubs in the area. Sadly, however, that was only the beginning of his problems. A painful separation. While everything was happening, Drew was still legally married to Rebecca Pritchard. Their bond was unusually strong, having worked side by side for years, both on television and in business. However, when the news reached Rebecca, their shared trust broke down. Perhaps refusing to believe it, or just determined to save her marriage, Rebecca tried to bear the effects of the affairs. But that was only for a few months. She soon filed for divorce, officially ending their marriage after many years together. Although they were legally separated, Drew and Rebecca managed to remain professional. They continued appearing together on Salvage Hunters, keeping their personal issues out of their work as much as possible. Rebecca still focused on her design projects and antique sourcing, while Drew continued to run his business and front the show. But the blow from the incident was too much for Rebecca, and she finally stepped away from the show after the 18th season. Although she didn't specify her reasons, the farewell video posted by Salvage Hunters suggested she wanted to pursue new challenges and make space for the next generation on the show. After the divorce was finalized, their financial settlement drew public attention because of the value of their shared assets. Even though the separation was said to be amicable, the court decided that Rebecca should receive part of their combined wealth, estimated at $8 million. The division of property was handled to make sure both sides were treated fairly and could move forward with their lives. Among the assets in the settlement was their family home, an 18th century chapel that he had bought in 1995. The property, located in Conwy, North Wales, had become one of Drew's most remarkable projects. Previously owned by Rolling Stones frontman Mick Jagger, the house was more than a measure of success. It symbolized Drew's passion for restoration and the life he and Rebecca had built together. But now, it is gone. While the financial settlement drew the public's attention, Drew and Rebecca focused on keeping their family stable. They made a joint effort to raise their two children with care, choosing cooperation over conflict. Both agreed that their children's peace of mind mattered more than anything else. Although the divorce and financial settlement took a heavy toll on Drew, that was not the end of his challenges. Going bankrupt, anyone who knows Drew knows he takes pleasure in buying and restoring anything old of value. With that skill, he turned forgotten treasures into admired pieces for years. His latest challenge came when he bought a historic Georgian townhouse in Bath for $1.5 million. The property had history and potential, and Drew's goal was to restore it to its original glory. But what started as a dream soon turned into a huge nightmare for him. Drew had a clear plan from the beginning, having set aside £200,000 for the renovation. That amount was quite huge, and he expected it to cover most of the work. But within months, his plans began to fall apart right before his eyes. Suddenly, the cost of materials and labor skyrocketed, and the rising inflation made it difficult to stay within budget. 75% of the money went into plumbing and electrical work alone, leaving very little money to complete the rest of the restoration. But knowing the property's true value, Drew was determined to keep the project alive. To do that, he had to make some hard choices. He decided to sell his antique warehouse and part with the personal items he had collected for more than 30 years. These were not ordinary pieces. They were items that carried memories and stories from his long career in antiques. Letting them go was not easy, but it was the only way he could raise money to continue his renovation. In total, about 600 antiques were sent to auction. The collection included rare pieces, such as a fossilized Irish elk skull and a Steamboat Willie model that Drew had bought for £3,500 and later sold for a £2,000 profit. Some sales went well, but many items failed to meet their reserve price. When the auction ended, Drew realized the total amount raised would still not be enough to finish the project. As weeks passed, the situation became even harder. Drew told his builder that the renovation would have to stop if new funds did not come in soon. He hoped for a quick solution, but none came. With no other option, he decided to pause the project. Instead of finishing the whole house, he focused on completing the top 2 floors so he could move in. These included his bedroom, bathroom, and guest rooms. The remaining sections of the building were left unfinished. For Drew, this was more than a financial setback. He had always taken pride in bringing old buildings back to life, and having to stop halfway through a project went against everything he believed in. Still, he chose to see it as a temporary pause, not a failure. Moving into the finished part of the home gave him time to plan his next steps, while keeping the rest of the property safe until he could resume work. For now, the Bath property remains partly restored, its walls holding both beauty and unfinished dreams. Drew continues to live in the completed section, surrounded by the kind of history he has spent his life saving. Though the project tested him more than most, it also showed his resilience and love for his work. While the financial pressures and business challenges were difficult, an even more personal tragedy was waiting around the corner: losing his father and packing up for good. Drew faced a loss that would devastate anyone: the death of his beloved father, Drew Pritchard. Drew's relationship with his dad had always been close, and this hit him hard. Richard wasn't just a father. He was a mentor and a guiding force in Drew's life. He was the one who first sparked Drew's interest in the world of antiques. His passing, particularly after the difficult separation from Rebecca and the challenges that came with fame, was a crushing blow. Suddenly, Drew was forced to reckon with the fragility of life. Everything he thought he knew about the world, about his own strength, seemed to come crashing down. But through his grief, Drew found a new level of appreciation for the things that truly mattered. Losing his father changed his outlook on what success meant. It was no longer about the next deal or the next find. It was about cherishing the people who matter most, the relationships that ground you, and the moments that truly shape your legacy. Drew's journey through grief was far from easy, and it's something he's been open about in interviews. He spoke about how difficult it was to keep going after such a monumental loss. But he did, and through it, he found a way to honor his father's memory by continuing to do what he loved: finding treasures and preserving history, just as Richard had inspired him to do in the first place. That loss changed Drew not just as a person, but also as a professional. It was a defining moment that gave him a deeper sense of purpose and ultimately made his story even more powerful. Although Richard's passing changed Drew's outlook on life, he continued pushing forward with his work. In many ways, the loss encouraged him to reassess his priorities and focus on what mattered most. Around the same period, other major changes were taking place in his professional life, including a decision that would surprise many of his loyal customers and longtime supporters. In May 2022, Drew shocked everyone when he announced that he would be closing the store. The only explanation he gave was that it was time to move on to new pastures. Fans were taken aback. Many people had traveled long distances just to visit the famous emporium, and the news of its closure felt like losing a piece of history. For Conwy, it was the end of an era. The store had become part of the town's heart, and its closure left a gap that couldn't easily be filled. A year after closing the shop, Drew Pritchard married Debbie Harris, an interior designer and property developer who apparently shares Drew's deep passion for historical craftsmanship and antiques. Drew said that their marriage brings harmony and happiness to his life, noting that she has made him stronger. Together, they share their professional and personal lives online, with Debbie also becoming an integral part of his children's lives. Drew has also hinted that his television career may be coming to an end altogether. While he hasn't ruled out future appearances entirely, his attention is now centered on his personal life and ongoing restoration projects. Much of his time has been devoted to renovating his Georgian townhouse in Bath, a property that viewers previously saw in the spin-off Salvage Hunters, Georgian House Restoration. The antique hunter said he intends to keep doing what has always driven him, hunting for antiques and bringing them back to life. He continues to buy, sell, collect, and take great satisfaction in preserving historic pieces that might otherwise be forgotten. Stepping away from the show after 14 years was undoubtedly a major decision, but Drew seems at peace with the path he has chosen. His years on Salvage Hunters earned him widespread recognition and helped establish a legacy that is likely to endure long after the series ends. Would it have been different if he had remained with Rebecca? Was his affair with Amanda the trigger to his downfall? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.